Hey guys, my name is Ryan and welcome to Overwatch Central. So there's quite a lot of news that's happening this week. Gamescom is on at the moment and Junkertown has been played by everybody there, including our friends Stylosa, Queenie, Valkyria, and also Seagull. The latter of these people actually sat down with Scott Mercer, who is one of the principal designers on Overwatch, that does a lot more stuff to do with MMR, the competitive system, takes a lead on a lot of stuff there. First of all, I highly recommend you watch the full 90-minute VOD. It's a really insightful listen. I had it on in the background whilst I was working on other stuff, and once I heard some of the stuff that was mentioned, I thought it was worth mentioning to you guys as well, because some of this stuff is really important and really big. Do check out the VOD, but this is just a quick fire recap of most things that were said, with a couple of audio clips what was said here and there as well. But anyway, let's get started with what we want to talk about. We're seeing Blizzard open up a lot more than they used to, with potential future changes that they're working on at the moment, and especially with Season 6 starting in about a week's time. Some of these answers are really good and really interesting, and I want to start off with Season 6 in particular, which is look out for stuff, but we're not going to say what it is.
Unfortunately, I can't really talk right now about all the stuff we're doing for Season 6 soon, but we definitely are making some adjustments to try to address that particular issue.
Now, the thing that they mentioned in particular was the performance-based SR system, a system that rewards you more points if you play well, and you lose more if you play badly. That's the gist of how the system should work. Logistically, it doesn't work out as straightforward as that. Now, this might be that they're toning it down or just getting rid of the performance-based SR system altogether. We will not know until this goes out, but I do sort of expect to see some changes with Season 6 upcoming. This is interesting because the difference between Season 4 and Season 5, I don't think anything was changed. The last form of changes that we saw was to do with the skill decay system way back when, now that it's 7 games in 7 days. Speaking of which, there was a brief mention, so I'm told, about the SL system that they're not happy with it. They want to have a decaying system in there at some capacity, but they're not happy with how it is currently. I currently can't find the clip for that, and I don't really necessarily want to go for the full 90 minutes to find it, but that's just something worth bearing in mind for future stuff as well for those that hate decaying, much like myself. Another thing that they've spoken about briefly at the moment is to do with reporting and people throwing. There were two aspects of this. First, the reporting system, that they actually want to put in a system that tells you that the people that you've reported is actually going to matter.
Like, because I know, like, right now, a lot of people think it's like, oh, it doesn't really mean anything because we don't really provide a lot of feedback. That's definitely, like, one thing we're trying to address as soon as possible as we can, is providing that kind of feedback, saying it's like, hey, you reported someone, and that report helped us action, you know, a player. Again, trying to like give you like understand that it's like, hey, it does work. Let people know that like what they're doing is not a good thing and they should stop doing it.
Move this on to the second aspect, and I think Blizzard have been quite clever here. The way that Scott Mercer talks about role selection is fairly straightforward. They're not going to put a role selection thing within Overwatch, as it feels that that really pushes people into certain boxes, I suppose. It really stretches the game.
There's some things that potentially we could do quietly with the matchmaker that we might like look into. I think some of this will help with toxicity, which is I know is like sort of a big thing for everyone. Like, hey, if we can like prevent situations where like multiple people want to play the same character, okay, so if the matchmaker can try to be like, smart about preventing those kinds of situations, that would be a big win.
They want to make sort of changes maybe to the MMR system and the matchmaker that could put players that play a lot of supports with players that play a lot of tanks. Instead of trying to sort of bait the system, I suppose, they're trying to work out how to fix it for people. They know that some people are going to just be one-tricks constantly and that you can't really sanction people for doing that. So instead, they want to complement it by putting support players with tank players, with DPS players, instead of all DPS or even all supports that we've seen in the past. Which brings us on to the next thing. Very short sentence to do with one-tricks.
We're working on it.
Interesting that Blizzard are actually looking at this and seeing if they can do anything to fix it. I'll be really excited to see what ideas they may have, but it's certainly a difficult thing to nail down completely. Keep your finger on the pulse for that one. I'd be really interested to see what Blizzard do there. When it came to a lot of certain things, Scott Mercer was very quick to say, we heard your feedback, but no, we're not going to do that. This happened on a few occasions. As I mentioned, role select was one of them. More incentives for playing competitive such as golden guns. That is something that they're not really looking to do at this point. Map rotations is another, and a very popular one that people talk about is a full MMR reset.
There was a season where we compressed the SR a little bit, and it was bad. Everyone noticed and was like, why are our matches like so bad?
As somebody that played Season 2, you definitely felt that there were an assortment of people in your game, so to speak, of different skill levels. And I think it's a naive thing to ask for, I suppose. Completely resetting the MMR will take months for players to get used to where they should be. Saying that, there are players that are really high up that shouldn't be, and there are players way down in Platinum maybe that should be a little bit higher. That's a ranked system. You've got to make sure that you play enough to make it work out. So this is a system I'm not particularly fond of, but it's still interesting to hear Scott's perspective anyway. And now I want to get onto the creme de la creme. I think the main focus, I suppose, for a lot of people is what Scott Mercer had to say about Mercy.
I can't talk about it right now, but yeah, we're definitely looking at Mercy. Mercy's definitely getting some like very interesting and sweet changes, and we'll be able to talk about it soon, TM.
This is really interesting. I think Mercy's a really interesting hero overall. That yes, mechanically she isn't that hard to pick up, but that doesn't necessarily strive too far away from the likes of Winston or Symmetra or Lucio to an extent. I think it's important that Blizzard and Overwatch have mechanically tame heroes like Mercy, but that's not to say that Resurrection in itself is a very strong ability. So keep your eyes peeled on that. We may see something very soon alongside the D.Va changes with Mercy. We know that we've been expecting them for quite some time, but this is the more upcoming news that has come out today from Gamescom, and I just wanted to do this little roundup of everything that was said. At least bits and pieces. I do recommend you to check out the VOD in its entirety if you want to hear everything that was said. And if there's anything that you felt that I missed in this video, then do put it in the comments below, such as saying, oh, Scott Mercer actually said this as well, which is quite interesting. Do let us know below, like and subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time, take care, we'll see you then.